Back when I was a kid, physical media was the best way to watch a movie whenever you wanted, because streaming wasn't a thing. And I think that fact alone was pretty decisive in what a person considers to be their favorite childhood movies. You'll end up having a lot more nostalgia for the movies you watched over and over and over and over and over again until the tapes were ruined and your parents begged you to stop, please let's just watch a different movie for once, than for, say, a movie you caught on TV that one time and had already missed the first 30 minutes of. And you can't go back because this isn't streaming. And the movies that you had the opportunity of watching over and over and over again were the ones you had in physical media form. With that said, Toy Story 2 is my favorite of the Toy Story films. I never had the tape, but my uncle did, so I would often end up watching it when I went to his house, and we went there a lot. And I was like 5 when all of this was happening, so of course I never got sick of watching it. Fast forward to 3 years later, and I'm old enough to go to my local Blockbuster, look at the original Toy Story sitting on a shelf, and go, "There's a Toy Story 1?" Because my 5-year-old brain never processed the fact that if there was a Toy Story 2, there must be a Toy Story 1. So I picked it up, rented it, because back in my day you had to rent tapes, you lazy millennials! Came back home, watched it, and found it kinda bad. It's not that I didn't like it, I didn't really like it. So Toy Story 2 was the clear winner in that whole ordeal, and I would gladly watch it again if we went to my uncle's house. Then like 10 years later, Pixar launched Toy Story 3, and every single 90s kid lost their minds because I was Annie's age when the first movie came out, and now I have to go to college and get rid of all my toys. Pff, millennials. So I watched Toy Story 3 and came to the thrilling conclusion that Toy Story 2 was better. And that would be my answer if anyone asked me what my favorite Toy Story was, because the trilogy was definitely over, and you gotta have a favorite movie in a trilogy. Of course, Toy Story 2 is the best Toy Story movie. But like 9 years later, Pixar decided to completely override the endgame feel of Toy Story 3 and make one more movie. Toy Story 4, selling more toys. So I watched Toy Story 4 and came to the even more thrilling conclusion that Toy Story 2 is the best Toy Story movie. Yep, just standing my ground here and saying Toy Story 2 is the best Toy Story movie. But like, is it though? Am I just blinded by nostalgia here? Have I been tricked all these years? Heck, Toy Story 2 is actually the lowest rated of the Toy Story movies. Maybe I'm just biased. Well, today, I want to wipe off that nostalgia gunk from my eyes and give these movies a fair shot. Buckle up, everybody! I want to talk about the search for the best Toy Story movie. Also, spoilers. For all of them. This time, let's do things right and start off with the first Toy Story. Wow, I haven't watched it in 15 years. It was kind of a phenomenon when it came out, being the first fully CGI movie and all. How well does it hold up? Hey, the textures aren't so bad. Oh no, I take it back. The idea that toys come to life when humans aren't looking wasn't invented by Toy Story, but the first movie manages to deal with the concept pretty well. Woody was Andy's favorite toy, until his position was threatened by the new and cool Buzz Lightyear. Woody gets so sick with jealousy that he tries to get rid of Buzz, but that just sends them both to the house of Sid, a boy who likes to blow up toys. Now they have to make it back to Andy's house before he moves away. It's weird to watch this movie now, almost 25 years after it first came out. It really feels like more of a family movie rather than a kids movie. Not that there's anything wrong with either. Some of the jokes seem a little heavier than what you would see in an animated movie nowadays, and a lot of the film is spent at Sid's, where the environment is straight up depressing. But it's not like it alienates kids either. The whole toys come to life thing plays right into their imaginations, and they might even be able to relate to Woody here if they had to welcome a new sibling in the family and no longer felt like the favorite. You can also see some aspects in the movie that would become Pixar trademarks, like the tendency to explore the secret worlds of non-human beings, or the attention to detail. The CGI technique wasn't even a thing before Pixar, and yet they still let you see the print of Sid's shirt. It's got a cool theme, a neat 3-act structure, well-defined characters, nice designs. Except for this one. It's easy to see why so many people love this movie. And I know I said that the moral of the movie can be applied to real life, with kids learning to share love or whatever, but I still think it's best to focus more on the toy-exclusive side of things. I mean, sure, the kid might be as jealous as Woody if a new sibling joins the family, but the sibling doesn't come fully grown and with an unshakable belief that they come from another planet. In that sense, the theme holds up wonderfully, and all of the conflicts are well tied to the identity of being a toy, from the desire to be played with to the fear of being literally blown up. Overall, it's a really solid film. So, if you understand numerical order and obey the societal laws of film watching, the next movie in the sequence is Toy Story 2. Woody has to confront his mortality when his arm gets torn, which also makes him question how many years he still has to enjoy Andy's love. He is kidnapped by a greedy toy salesman and discovers that he is a rare 50s toy, which makes him consider going to a museum where he can never die and be forever loved at a distance. But in the end, he still chooses to go back to his kid. It takes the themes from the first movie and expands on them. Even if Woody is still Andy's favorite, that love can't last forever, because toys aren't indestructible and kids have to grow up. What to do then? Should you choose everlasting admiration or a love you know is doomed to fade? Can you call admiration love if the people know nothing about you and never get close to you? Again, this is a conflict that can be abstracted into real life if you want, but it works perfectly well for a toy-centric perspective. We still have a nice 3-act narrative, even more lovable characters, cool animation, a very troubled production history that nearly doomed not only the film but the studio as a whole. I can say from personal experience that this movie works so well as a standalone film that it doesn't even make you consider the possibility of there being a movie that comes before it. It's just that good. But I mean, it is a sequel, so it's only fair that we judge it as such. And I gotta say, it is such a great sequel that it made 8-year-old me very disappointed in the first movie. It raises the stakes in so many different ways. The locations are a lot more diverse and grand, the climax is really action-packed, you have to deal with not only one, but 2 antagonists, one of them being a twist reveal, and the conflict is a lot more psychological too. In the first movie, it was just a matter of getting Woody from one house to the other, but on the second movie, Woody has to choose which house he wants to stay in. It's also a lot softer than the other movie. The imagery is less terrifying. The locations are more colorful. Woody is way less of a prick. That doesn't necessarily make it better, but it pleases my personal aesthetic. Oh wait, what's this? Oh, it looks like it still had some nostalgia in my eye. Ha! Woody being a 50s toy makes no sense. Okay, he was made in the 50s. The mom says he's an old family toy. How can he not remember this? If he's an old family toy, didn't he have another kid? But if he did, then he should know that Andy's love is no different than the love of any other kid. Hadn't he been played with before Andy? Is that why he has no memories? But the prospector has been alive despite never having been played with, and he has plenty of memories from his time in the 50s. Did Woody lose his memory? Do toys have memory? Do they have a brain? Can they get amnesia? Toy Story 3 ignores all of those questions as we explore the toys' lives after Andy has grown up and no longer plays with them. They are accidentally taken to daycare, but then consider, hey, maybe this life isn't so bad, until they discover that it is bad, but just because of the twist antagonist. They nearly die trying to escape, but then they go back to Andy, who finds them a new kid. I guess the mom is okay with getting rid of that rare family toy now. That plot point makes no sense. Remember how I said Toy Story 2 was a lot softer than the previous movie? Well, Toy Story 3 goes right back to its roots and makes the whole movie dark again. The depressing imagery is back, the palette is a lot more muted, the daycare situation is built on despair, the monkey is going to keep me up at night. The conflict of this movie seems to be addressing the worst case scenario for a toy, one that the other 2 movies so far had kind of avoided solving. Your kid no longer plays with you. They still love you, sure, but you no longer serve them a purpose. What next? The solution comes as pretty much Jesse's journey in the second movie. Just find a new kid. It can be a bunch of kids at a daycare or one singular kid that will love you again. But in the end, the love of any kid will be just as good as the love of your first one. So you've got a moral from the second movie and the aesthetics of the first movie, making Toy Story 3 an amalgamation of all that came before it, and also the least original movie of all three. I mean, come on, even the twist villain had already been done with pretty much the exact same character type. Pixar was also clearly playing into the audience's nostalgia here. The first scene with Andy's playtime stories is just the playtimes from the first and the second movies, but with better rendering. Not to mention Andy's speech at the end. Pixar didn't want this to be a standalone movie and tugged at your heartstrings so hard it nearly ripped them apart. They can't possibly try harder to make you cry. Besides, the characters come as close to dying as a toy can get. How else are they going to raise the stakes? To solve that question, we've got Toy Story 4, and the answer is they didn't. Toy Story 4 is kind of a weird movie. So far, the trilogy has tried really hard to establish that the love of a child is the only thing that can make a toy happy. But Toy Story 4 starts to question whether that's even viable. Woody finds himself for the first time in a situation where he is not the favorite. His whole speech of how a toy's purpose is to be there for their kid falls flat, because if it was true, then he should be fine with the secondary role he's being demoted to. Woody meets Bo Peep and she introduces him to the idea of abandoning all his emotional attachments and becoming a lost toy, which the movie frames as the correct choice. But we can't have all toys be lost toys, because the purpose of a lost toy is to help other toys find kids. Except the lost toys are still treated as more enlightened than the rest, so I guess the other toys just haven't realized that yet? But what will happen when they all become galaxy-brained and abandon their children? Are we counting on the idea that there will always be new toys to fill in that void? I don't know. Does the movie even know? The climax also feels really subdued. There's no big fight scene or ingenious escapade or life and death adventure or not even a nostalgic goodbye speech. And honestly, that's kind of refreshing. I've mentioned before how Toy Story 2 was the softest of the trilogy so far, but now it's only fair to give that spot to the fourth movie. The Toy Story universe, or TCU if you will, had gotten to a point where they couldn't possibly make a bigger adventure than their third installment. So they didn't. And that's fine by me. What a weird note to end on. I can't even judge Toy Story 4 as the finale. It feels pretty definitive, but so did Toy Story 3. All I can do is go over what we have now, and from what we have, Toy Story 2 is the best Toy Story movie. Bye, thanks for watching! No, just kidding, I can't end a video like this. But I mean, in a franchise that glorifies nostalgia, wouldn't it be fitting to pick the most nostalgic movie for me as the winner? If the TCU has taught me anything, is that nostalgia is the most valuable asset to a toy. And also the most profitable. No, I can't just pick another movie. What I can do is create an arbitrary category in which each of the movies is a winner. Like a participation award. The first movie has the most solid concept and execution. The premise is simple, the motivations are clear, and the conclusion is coherent. You want a good movie about toys being alive? Well, this is the film for you. Toy Story 3 is the best Prison Break movie because let's face it, that's all the sequel is. All the creative toy capers are cranked up to the max, you've got good reasons to root for their escape, and there's plenty of action to keep you entertained. Toy Story 4 is the most philosophical movie. Maybe you just want to sit back and relax while watching some toys figure out what their purpose is. There's no life or death situations, no scary scenes to frighten the kids, no villain except for the inherent burden of being alive. You might not personally like the conclusion that they reach at the end, but at least it's giving you a fun time and something to think about. And Toy Story 2 is, well, it's my favorite. And I'm sure you have a favorite too. And that's what matters most in any video you watch on the internet, isn't it? The best Toy Story movie is whichever you say it is. Thank you for watching. But I mean, of course it's Toy Story 2. Oh, hello there, and thank you for watching the video. If you have enjoyed the video, you can do those cool things such as clicking the like button and also subscribing to the channel, What is your favorite Toy Story movie? You can leave it in a comment down below and then we can argue about how wrong you are if you picked a movie that is not Toy Story 2. I hope you had a very good time and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!
Hey, how y'all? Get your fucking dog, bitch! It don't bite. Yes, it do!